Welcome to the Littleton Board of Health 2 o'clock April 29th COVID meeting. This meeting is being held virtually through Zoom. The town of Littleton began conducting remote participation / Zoom meetings pursuant to Governor Baker's emergency order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law on March 19th, 2020. Since that time, unanticipated legal concerns relating to the open meeting law have been brought to our attention by the town clerk. Those concerns were supported by the Attorney General's office and confirmed by town council. One concern is that the chat function allows a parallel text conversation to a board's public meeting. Chat is essentially running commentary that is occurring, but it is not moderated or followed by the chair. All participants and listeners may not be aware of comments being made because some meeting participants join by phone and do not see these conversations. Another concern is conversations between residents within the chat room, which are not incorporated into the public record. In response to these concerns, the town will implement the following changes, which in no way prohibit any member of the public from participating in discussion and sharing information during a public meeting, and will ensure that all listeners and participants have equal access to this meeting. People that join the Zoom meeting are set so their microphones are muted. If you called in by phone, please use *6 to mute or unmute your phone. So that the meeting can occur in an orderly fashion, we ask that people who join keep their microphones on mute so background noises do not interfere with the meeting. If you wish to participate in the meeting, please use the raise your hand function available on Zoom, or if you called in by phone, dial *9, which will activate the raise your hand function. The meeting host will notify the chairperson of the raised hand, and the chairperson will determine whether and when to allow public comment. When called upon, participants should unmute, then state their name and address. After speaking, we request the participant return their microphone back to mute. Okay. So if we can get an update from Jim Gareffi first, please.
Sure. Thanks, Louise. We've had a series of public health calls. They're Monday, Wednesday, Fridays, Tuesday afternoons for all towns. The big issues that seem to be coming up is all of the boards of health are looking for guidance on the opening of outdoor recreational facilities, camps, beaches, pools. A lot of conversation now about graduations, how can they be conducted, and then also town meetings, town elections. So the boards of health have been pressing Department of Public Health for guidance on those activities and how they might be conducted. They sent out a series of updates that happened from Friday to yesterday, essentially. I've passed them out to the chairmans. There's some guidance from community housing development about restricting visitors at high-risk apartment buildings. So I've talked to Lisa Larrabee a little bit about what they may want to try to do at Littleton Housing. Their buildings there are quads. And so she felt that people were being reasonable there, that they didn't really need to do anything more. She's got kind of sign-in sheets in the building now. They're voluntary. And she says people are complying with signing in if they're getting visitors at the building. So at that point, I guess, according to her, they don't really need to do anything more yet with that facility. And we haven't seen any additional cases come in that facility. They did provide the boards with some guidance on isolation and quarantine. If you read through the communicable disease regulations, that CMR 300, we're supposed to do isolation and quarantine in the least restrictive way possible. So again, it's really meant to get voluntary compliance with people to do the isolation and quarantine. That one of the updates discussed what boards of health can do if they're not getting cooperation. So boards can issue written orders. Boards can go to Superior Court if people aren't complying with it. So I've reviewed those things. So far, we haven't had any. The non-compliance we've addressed it with the people, and then they seem to be compliant. The Life Care Center, again, Tamara's still sitting in on conversations. with the facility and the Department of Public Health on Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays. Again, our role, just to reiterate, is just to make sure we have a handle on the isolation and quarantine piece, particularly for people being released from the facility. She mentioned that they've had a couple of additional deaths since Monday. I think the total number is now total number of deaths is up to 20. Just to give you that. And they're supposed to be doing press releases, according to them, weekly. Tamara asked that if there's any significant activities that occur, that we get a press release also, just so that we're able to explain to the community what's happening at the facility. And I know we have a meeting tomorrow, a town hall Zoom meeting about, I guess, a variety of issues, some of which are how you might envision reopening town hall. So just to kind of let you know that. And I guess that's all I have.
Okay, great. Does anyone have a question for Jim? Okay, how about you, Scott? You have an update for us?
As far as townwide, our responses to COVID-related incidents have definitely wound down again. You know, I think going for a second week. They're still ongoing, but just not to the level that we saw in the weeks with Life Care. PPE is still in good shape. You know, townwide for essential services. If you know, we need additional equipment and supplies, we're going through MEMA. They're still supplying with masks and suits and stuff like that. You know, I think since you guys put the advisory out for our masks, with the recommendation of everybody wearing them in the stores, it seems to be improving. They now have a lot of the store workers are all wearing masks now across the board, which you know, even they were limited last week, but this week they're definitely a lot better. I think the you know, seeing the advisories that are coming out across through the other towns and stuff like that, people are kind of heeding the warning a bit more, which is a good thing. But you know, I don't think this isn't going away anytime quick. So it's just it's difficult, as you know, people are starting to get a little anxious. You know, we're going into the second month of this, and you know, it's far from over.
Scott or Jim, have there been any pushback to the advisory of masks?
Not done.
Any of the managers or anything like that push back on that at all?
I haven't seen any.
Nope. Same on this side.
I'm kind of wondering that as the weather gets nicer, how hard it's going to be to keep people with the masks on, and as it gets warmer and, you know, distancing themselves. I think it's going to get harder if it has to continue. I think it's going to get harder.
Well, not just the good weather, but just the fact that it's been 2 months or a month, at least a month now, that we've been separated and think, okay, it's good enough, but we still need to be vigilant about it. So
Right.
Yeah, it'll definitely be a challenge. You know, as you're already seeing, like Maine's already said they're not opening their beaches this year, or at least parts of it. So if that, you know, transitions down through New Hampshire and into Mass, you know, that's just one little aspect of vacation time, and you know, as long as people stay vigilant and continue and practice the social distancing, you know, in everything that they do, there'll be a lot more outside gatherings, you know.
Right. Scott, I know like homelessness is not a big issue here in town, but have you run into that situation where someone might need a different place to, whether it's an abuse situation or, you know, someone that needs someplace else to be if they get sick? I don't know if that's happened in Littleton.
Honestly, I have not seen that yet. I'm not sure about the police department. They've definitely been dealing with some. I don't know if Chief Bernard's on this call. They've had some additional challenges, with the stay-at-home order, but it's one of these different times that we all have to live through and figure out how to cope with each other.
I have a question, and Jim probably may even have a clue, but we received a letter from a resident, I believe, who was in Marshfield. I'm not sure, and they have a mandatory set of requirements, including wearing masks, if I'm not mistaken. And the thing that was missing, I couldn't find it anywhere, is how do towns in general enforce it? I'm not looking for Littleton to get into this business, but I'm as concerned as anybody here about what happens after a period of time when people start getting anxious.
So the orders, it seems like when I'm on the public health calls that more towns, not a tidal wave of them, but towns are trickling into this mandatory mask wearing or face covering wearing, maybe is a better way to put it, or face coverings. And some do it in different ways. Some anytime you're out in public, some do it when you go into a building, whether it's a store or a public building. And the orders that I've seen, it can be enforced by police, Board of Health. I think those are the two entities I've seen, police or Board of Health.
Okay, so basically the idea is it basically unloads on the Board of Health and on the police department to basically police and enforce.
Correct.
That's it. Okay.
Yeah.
I know, like Malden and Somerville, and I think Woburn, they've all made it mandatory. First warning is free. Second warning or the second offense is $300 fine. And that's out doing everything, exercising, out walking on the sidewalks, anywhere. We've had a lot of discussion over that in the last couple of days within our fire district and all of the surrounding towns, Ayr, Groton, Pepperell, Chelmsford, Tewksbury. They have all taken votes in the last couple of days, I guess, to stay with the recommendation instead of making it mandatory, because nobody has the resources to enforce it. So that's definitely the biggest challenge that everyone's facing, is just give the strong recommendation, like you guys did last week. And most of them are continuing on with that, just for that pure, lack of enforceability or should I say the manpower to be out there to enforce it.
And I think the other thing with like Cambridge and Somerville, which are, I think came out this week, the outdoor, like Scott was saying, outdoor, I mean, there's different densities of people. So when you're in Somerville, when you're in Cambridge, people are a lot closer together. You've got public transportation that people are taking. So it may seem to have a better public health outcome for them because they've got people who just can't distance. So they're trying to be extra cautious with that. But echoing Scott's concerns is, I don't know how you enforce it.
Yeah. I was just wondering, I mean, I have no sense of, because the few times that I go out, it's strictly anecdotal, so this is hardly a survey, is that I noticed that the traffic density at certain times is going up, sort of like a day by day, it's plateaued a little bit.
Definitely.
And I'm very concerned about burdening anyone in town in the public service with more policing or enforcement. I was just wondering, at what point does it come, is it worth it to consider what I would call gentle reinforcement? And I don't think it's now. It might be later as we get closer to the 18th or whatever of May. And I was just wondering, given the popularity and high visibility, and I hate to do this to you, Scott, of the fire department, do you think it'd be worthwhile to basically, I don't know if you're allowed even to do this, to put up basically, encouraging signs to stay within the guidelines and just, as it were, cruise certain neighborhoods? I'm reaching for straws here because I'm very concerned that once we get to the process of opening or whatever it's called, opening, and there's still got to be distancing and a whole bunch of other stuff, because I have no idea what they're going to do with transportation, because over 90% of our residents, if they still have jobs, commute.
Right.
And I'm sorry. Go ahead, Scott. I'm sorry. It's just, I just don't, I've sat in on the Board of Selectmen meetings often enough. Now I've heard, the money situation, and, I think you got more important things to do than worry about, shooing people inside.
Honestly, if you look at the big picture and you really listen to everybody talking, they're throwing the 18th out there, as a soft reopening or something like that. It's going to be limited. And I think any of us would be sadly mistaken if we think that we're going to be back to normal in any fashion by midsummer, by the end of the summer. I think we're going to be doing the social distancing. You're going to be wearing your masks right through the fall. And as they're seeing in some of the other countries right now, that second wave is starting. They let their guard down, and they had a hard crush with that second wave. And we really want to eliminate that, and or try to control it as much as possible. And continue with our postings on LCTV. Throughout the selectmen's meetings, Board of Health meetings, things like that. And I would imagine that, the governor will continue, and everybody will continue to really reinforce that as we go forward. Yeah, they may ease the restrictions a bit, but I think a lot of it is about kind of policing each other and paying attention to that, and, going back to try to use some common sense. And that could be very, very challenging as this moves forward, because people start to get complacent and think the nice weather's here and everybody is, it's nice out, we're all healthy, and, just think about what you're doing and where you're going, and bring a mask with you everywhere you go.
Yeah.
I was just thinking of using whatever we had to do soft reinforcement and persuasion if and when the time comes. I wasn't thinking of an immediate response. Really, when you're looking at it, I don't think they're going to be opening the town beach this year. There's going to be, there's no sporting events. These gatherings that we're typically used to are pretty much going to be very limited or eliminated these seasons. And, hopefully that's going to start to control some of these. So you're counting on fear and common sense?
Maybe a combination thereof.
Well, that and a combination of activities being canceled, I think, kind of keeps people a little.
Well, okay. I guess I'm more of a pessimistic about the effects of fear and common sense. It's all right.
I think that, go ahead, Lisa.
Go ahead, Louise.
I think that with the oncoming nice weather, it might be a good idea to maybe in front on your sign, Scott, out front, to have a message during the summer. Remember, the nice weather's here, but you still have to wear a mask. Maybe around towns, or the flashing sign from the highway department. Occasionally over the summer, put up a reminder.
The middle school has a big blinky in front of it too. That might be a place for, continue with your practices even if the weather's good.
Yeah,
absolutely. It's a great message to put on that. Just they could put a couple messages on there. Even a few of those little signboards, if they're put out in the common or put out by the libraries, just some of those simple reminders of practice your social distancing and wearing your face coverings. It's going to be a challenge for everybody.
Yeah.
There's a sandwich board up at the Baptist church that said, Jesus washed away your sins, but you still need to wash your hands, or something like that. So
yeah, I saw that.
Little simple reminders are good.
Well, such a small town. One of the things you guys touched on about the masks and mandating, I think Louise and I talked about it, that there's a lot more cases in Somerville and Lawrence, so mandating the masks was probably a little bit more appropriate in those towns than it might be here in town. right now.
Are there any other questions or comments for Scott or Jim, or how about from the attendees, Janet?
Nobody has their hands up, Louise.
Okay.
I just unmuted Gino. I don't know if he was trying to say something before.
Oh, Gino, did you have a comment or a question for Scott or Jim?
Let me do the right thing. 9 was 9. I got my hands up.
Okay.
All right.
You don't need your hand up. We know you.
My comment is that Jimmy and everybody else, Scotty, they do a good job. I appreciate it. And everywhere I go in the stores, I notice that people have their mask. I reprimand a couple of young girls at the store. I said, look, I don't want to cause any trouble, but it'd be nice if you put a mask on. And if you have a glove, put them on. Otherwise, I'll give you a pair of gloves. She says, why? Because I'm in the Board of Health. I don't want to report you. She says, oh, thank you. Thank you for that. And then the next day I go by, she had a mask and a pair of gloves. So I think if you say very gently to somebody to remind them, even though they're young people, to make sure they have a mask, even though sometimes they can take it off for whatever reason. But when they are in the public, they should have it. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you, Gino. Okay. Any other? Kevin, do you have anything?
No, I don't.
Okay. I guess that's it for today then. Does someone want to make a motion? Oh, wait, we have to vote on our minutes from April 28th.
Louise, can I just ask one other thing? Kind of a non-COVID meeting question. At your last Board of Health meeting, you approved a shared system agreement or shared system for Wellington Drive. One of the things the applicant needs to do is to get that document recorded on the deed before a permit can be issued. The document needs the board's signatures and they need to be notarized. So I'm trying to figure out how to get that done. So the applicant's going to bring me a copy of the document. I touched base with Diane about possibly notarizing your signatures. I don't know if we can put the document someplace and people can come by and sign it, or so what I may do is just reach out to you at some point in time just to figure out how we can get the signatures on that so I can get it to him for recording.
Okay.
Does that need wet signatures, Jim?
It should, yeah, I mean, it should be, it needs a majority of the board's actual signatures because the registry won't sign it with, at least that's what I'm told, without real signatures.
Diane Crory, who's the town clerk, is in the office in the mornings.
Okay.
So if we could get some of you to, at least 3 of you, I guess it sounds like majority, if we could get you guys to go down and sign in the parking lot where she can see, and then she could notarize it, maybe that could be a solution.
I'll be available.
Yeah. I can do that too. Is it at the office or do you have it? Where is it, Jim?
I have to get it from the applicant. So as soon as I get it, I can send out an email saying I have the document. And I can make arrangements to maybe leave it at on top of the box that's there down at the door. Or what, we can make arrangements to get it to the town hall so that it's available for you.
Yeah, you could text me because I'm still part-time at work and I can come maybe meet you in the parking lot and
Sure,
we could
no
all
problem at all.
converge at once or.
No, that's okay.
Available anytime.
Masks at the ready.
Right.
If they text me too, I'll be there at the parking lot. I'll be there
Okay.
anytime.
Okay.
Yeah, if you text me enough in advance, I can be there as well if you need yet
All right.
another signature. I'm very
Okay.
close to the town.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jim.
Does that sound good, Jim?
Sure.
Yep.
Okay. All right. So then we need to vote on the minutes from last night, which is very efficient, Janet.
I'm not sure if everyone had a chance to read them, and if not, we need to wait until next week. That's fine as well.
Okay. Did everyone get a chance to read the minutes?
Well,
I managed to get it read.
I read
Gino,
them.
did you read them?
Yes, ma'am.
Kevin, did you read them?
Kind of a long one.
I
too.
haven't had a chance yet. Sorry.
Okay, we can wait till next week.
Okay.
All right, I think that's everything. Right? Someone want to make a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn?
I'll second it.
Okay, now we'll take the roll call. Kevin,
Evan Baker, yes.
Gino,
Gina Ferroni, yes.
Lisa,
Lisa Flanagan, yes.
Mike,
Mike Zeldin, yes.
and Louise Nichols, yes. Thanks, everybody. This is our shortest meeting yet.
Thank you.